And welcome back to Daytona Beach, Florida, and the Daytona International Speedway. Welcome to the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series practice on speed. Beautiful logo. The infield here at Daytona International Speedway, painted up nicely. You see a little bit of ripples on the water there by the backstretch here inside Daytona. 75 degrees and a breezy day. 11-mile-per-hour winds that are blowing down the backstretch. It'll be behind them as they come out of turn number 2 and head down to turn 3. Again, we talk about that logo. The new sponsor for the Truck Series here at NASCAR, it's the Camping World Truck Series in 2009. Hello everyone, Rick Allen, Phil Parsons, Michael Waltrip with you once again for the 2009 season. Now, we've had changes that have taken place. Obviously, a new title sponsor. We've got some rule changes that are taking place. But when it all comes down to the racing part, it's still the same.
It really is, and probably the best racing in all of Speed Weeks. And you have to remember, these guys haven't been in a truck since mid-November. You know, we always have January testing down here, so we talk about, well, if they didn't get much time on the racetrack, that's fine because they practiced, 3 weeks ago. Right. Not like that this time, first time ever.
Well, listen, a couple years ago, I was talking to Schrader, and I said, you know what they need to do? They need to make these cup cars drive like a truck. they need to go through the wind like a truck because the truck racing is the best. He said, wouldn't it look like a truck if they did that? And I said, I don't think so. I think there's a way around it. And if you watch the race Saturday night, the shootout, those cars look like trucks. They were all over the place. You'll see the bumps in the road. This is how you race right here. These guys are going to show you during this session and certainly Friday night live on Speed exactly how you race at Daytona. It's fun.
We talked about changes. There are a few changes, but one number change obviously is not our previous champion in the 33, Ron Hornaday. He will still be driving that number 33. Right behind him is Colin Brown in the number 6 in that Conway Freight Ford F-150.
And that's about where it ends. That's about where the similarities from last year end.
From that point, everything is up in the air. But to keep everyone straight as to what is taking place, we've got the two crack reporters both in the garage and on pit road, Adam Alexander and Ray Dunlap. Ray, what's going on?
Well, I'll tell you, Rick, just a few minutes ago I was standing down here in the garage with Todd Bodine and he was in his street clothes. I said, what are you doing, Onion? He said, I have no intentions of going out and drafting right now. He said, all we want to do is take this number 30 truck out, run it over the bumps a couple of times, make sure it feels good, and we're not going to take any chances on it. But guess what? There's a guy up here on top of the trailer. That would be Mike Hillman Sr., and he walked over to Todd and said, you got to get your uniform on, get in that truck and go out and draft. What are you talking about? So the best laid plans of mice and men went all completely different in the last couple of minutes down here. Why would they have not taken the chance to draft? Because the truck that Todd Bodine is driving this weekend has won the last 3 consecutive super speedway races here in the Camping World Truck Series. But they changed their plans at the very last second. Hillman says, get it out there and tell me if it's as good as it has been the last couple of years. Adam?
Ray, we all know how hard it is if you're a race car driver who's not been in one of these things for a few months to sit back and wait. But that's exactly what Matt Crafton is doing and a number of other guys. And that's an okay plan. The reason why the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series has got an additional practice session this year. This one in particular, 2 hours long, so there is plenty of time to get on track. You see Matt Crafton waiting for his opportunity to go out, and so is this guy, a man we're going to talk a lot about in 2009, Ricky Carmichael in the number 4 for Kevin Harvick Incorporated. He has made the move from 2 wheels and is going to be running 4, a 5-time Supercross champion in AMA, making his Truck Series debut this weekend. Lots of new faces in the Truck Series.
Yeah, and a lot of success. Thanks a lot, Adam. You know, Ricky Carmichael, 150 wins. I mean, think about that. That is unbelievable in his profession.
Is he the GOAT or is the other guy the GOAT?
He's definitely the GOAT.
He's the GOAT.
Greatest of all time.
Right.
And it's funny, we always talk about that, oh yeah, greatest of all time. But that was given to him by his peers. I mean, the guys that he races against, they said, you know, you are GOAT. You're greatest of all time.
But James Stewart, he wants to be the GOAT now, doesn't he?
You're right.
He is on it.
Yeah, he's got a title here, too. Rookie.
Yeah. And you know, the interesting thing about a motorcycle, you can get in the gym and you can just work your way to where you can get a bit of an advantage over the rest, maybe, just because your work ethic and the way your body is able to shock those bumps that you have to hop over. This truck, that advantage might not be there. You have to be in perfect physical shape, but guess what? Everybody else is going to be that way too. So it's hard to outwork people when it comes to your physical fitness in this sport, because people are so determined and so tough to be the best. And I don't see an advantage there for Ricky.
And this type of racing here, especially at a place like Daytona, is so much mental too. This is probably one of the most mental races that you would run here, trying to be in the right position at the right time.
And in order to be mentally tough, you got to have a little bit of knowledge and experience about what it takes, and he doesn't have any of that, Phil. So he's spotting them a little bit even.
He tried to get a head start on it because he ran the ARCA race last Saturday, the ARCA Remax race, so that gave him a little bit of experience. He also ran the ARCA Remax race at Talladega last fall, so they're doing all they can do to prepare him for this race Friday.
And what he learned on Saturday during the ARCA race is you mean I wrecked and I still got to race more? He tore the whole front end of it off. Kevin Harvick's guys fixed it up, put him back out there, and that's what this year is going to be like for Ricky Carmichael. He's going to run into stuff. Obviously, everybody does. He's going to learn. He's going to try to gain that experience.
And we talk about experience versus inexperience. A new face to the Truck Series, James Buescher, driving that number 10 this year. Adam?
Already got the win that you guys talked about in the ARCA Remax Series here on Saturday evening. And yesterday, James, being a Rookie of the Year contender, was talking to the guy who won Ray Best's Rookie of the Year last season, Colin Brown. And I asked Colin, if you could tell James one thing to help him in his rookie year, what would you tell him? And he looked over at Rick Crawford, who will be James' teammate in '09, and he said, listen to your teammate. He's been around the block a time or two. And James said, the only thing he'll tell me is don't wreck your teammate. Pretty entertaining young kid is James Buescher.
Oh, there will be a lot of knowledge passed back and forth between Rick Crawford and James Buescher in his career here with Circle Bar Racing. Again, trucks are on the racetrack, and we will be with you on speed for every time the trucks are on the track. Here's the rest of the day. Sprint Cup practice at 2 o'clock. We're back on the track in the Camping World practice at 5. NASCAR Live follows that at 6. The Speed Report at 8. And NASCAR 2009 New Beginning at 9 o'clock. A great show talking about different drivers with new beginnings. We'll be right here on Speed. Speed presentation of NASCAR Camping World Truck Series practice from Daytona is presented by Camping World. Camping World, our lower prices and friendly service will make you a happy camper. Brought to you in part by Verizon Wireless. Call more people. Use 0 minutes. Only on America's largest mobile-to-mobile calling family, Verizon Wireless. And by Toyota. For the latest Toyota racing information, visit toyotaracing.com. Toyota, moving forward.
I think every time someone wins, they should have like a award they give them as the happy camper.
I think they would be the happiest camper at the
That's
racetrack.
right, especially if you get a win here at Daytona. you might get the happiest camper of the year if you win at Daytona. Check out. You think this practice isn't intense early in the going? Check out Mike Skinner, one of our veterans, off turn 4 in a tight draft, right behind Todd Bodine. There's a wall over there, Mike. Right there,
and it's almost right there.
That's as close as you can get.
I think you might be right, Rick. I think the 7 truck. J.R. Fitzpatrick, I think he might have come up off the gas a little bit exiting that corner, Phil, and it bunched Todd and then Skinner up, and they were looking for somewhere to go to keep them running into each other.
Exactly, and that's the thing with these kind of trucks here, because they're going to be jumping around, bouncing around, much like the Sprint Cup cars we saw in the shootout last Saturday night, and there are going to be guys getting out of the throttle, and that could create havoc.
Ray Dunlap.
Give you a little update on the 51 down here. Kyle Rowdy Busch will be driving that 51 throughout the season and most of the companion weekends when we're with Sprint Cup Series. But I want to tell you, they are dragging the bottom of this race truck right now. And Kyle Busch came on the radio and said, we have got to get this thing up a little bit. It is making it jump all over the track. And you can see that Rowdy is down underneath the truck right now, talking it over with his new crew chief, Doug George, trying to see how much the splitter is dragging and whether there's something else in the front end geometry they need to change. Now these guys have ground down all the side skirts and taken a look up underneath. They'll paint everything white on the bottom side of this truck again. He'll take it back out and they'll figure it out. But Kyle not happy with the way this thing was handling as it was hitting the bumps over in turn 4.
If you remember last year, remember what a handful Kyle had early on in that race, and there he was at the end of the race fighting for the win. It looked like the truck was undrivable during that race. Richie Waters and his guys jumped on that thing, got it fixed, and Kyle almost won that thing in that great 3-wide finish with Todd Bodine.
And if you wonder why he's up under that thing right now, it was because he remembers how bad it was when that race started back here a year ago. He was all over the place. He's saying, let me look in on this today and make sure we're heading in a better direction.
You know, I want to shift gears and go back a little bit. You touched on that Skinner got really close to the wall. In watching it, as a driver, are you watching the truck right in front of you or your position on the track? Because it looks like Todd Bodine moves up the track and Skinner moves up as well, but boom, all of a sudden the wall's right there.
I think they were just in a bind. I do believe the 7 came up off the gas a little bit. Todd moved up to see if there was anywhere to go, so Mike moved up to see if there was anywhere to go, and they almost ran out of room.
Yeah, the 7 of J.R. Fitzpatrick probably lost the front end a little bit coming off 4 there. Had to squeeze out of the throttle. Now, we're not talking about jumping out of the throttle, because as much drag as these trucks have, you jump out of the throttle, the thing will stop.
Where's
really smooth.
That's a good sign.
Oh, yeah.
Where are your eyes? I mean, when you guys are around here, are you watching that truck in front of you or are you watching the racetrack?
That's all you can see, Rick. You can't, like, when we're with our bump drafting with our Sprint Cup cars, all you can see is the car directly in front of you. If you want to see what's up ahead, you got to flare off to one side or the other. So right there, where those trucks were exiting that corner, all Mike Skinner could see was Todd Bodine, and he saw he was catching him in a quick way in a bad spot. So he flared out to the right to see if there was any room there. I'll be darned.
And oh, by the way, Mr. Wall was right there.
Concrete just to the right, of all things.
Kyle Busch, one of the guys that will jump out of his truck and work on it with his teammates. There's the top 10 speeds to this point in our first practice of 2009. Get fired up. Speed is dueling in Daytona. Tomorrow, the most exciting qualifying event in NASCAR is only on Speed. The Gatorade Duel at Daytona. Be there for the 2 races that set the field for the Daytona 500. Don't miss the Gatorade Duel at Daytona live tomorrow, 2 Eastern, NASCAR on Speed. Be there. And you know what, Mikey? You're going to be there. Which race are you in, the first or second?
I think second.
I think you're in the first.
I think the first, yes. Definitely in the first.
You might want to ask.
You're going to be here anyway, though.
I will be lined up at 2 o'clock and ready to go.
Whatever race
whichever one I'm in. And you know, we talked earlier, we keep referring to the shootout Saturday night that the Sprint Cups cars ran. All that same action is going to take place right here on Speed tomorrow. So if you miss Saturday night and you want to know
twice as much action.
Twice as much. And if you want to know what a car that drives like a truck looks like, tomorrow you'll see.
Here's a new look right here. Here's Terry Cook, the 25. That we're used to seeing that truck is number 59. That is now part of a 2-truck team for HT Motorsports. Terry has Cajun Industries that came on board for this race. He also has a teammate in David Starr and the Zachary Toyota.
Yeah, we talked about the different names and faces and numbers. 25 of the 38 drivers that are entered for this race have changed teams over the offseason.
Yeah, that is
that's an unbelievable number.
And these are just some of the notables, as you can see, all up to 25. But Johnny Benson, our champion from last year, actually switched teams, went over to Red Horse Racing. Mike Skinner, who almost won the championship the year before, he left BDR. Obviously, BDR went away, and he went over to the Randy Moss Motorsports team. Kept the number, but it's an entirely different team.
You know what's cool, Phil? It's a struggle right now. Everybody knows how tough it is to find dollars to go race. CajunUSA.com on that 25 truck. Jim Harris running 2 trucks this year. Boy, that's refreshing, isn't it? Seeing some new blood, some new sponsors, all right here in the Truck Series.
Absolutely.
Working out very well. Adam Alexander.
You guys talk about HT Motorsports going from 1 truck to 2, and the movement of Johnny Benson from the now defunct Bill Davis Racing over to Red Horse Racing. Well, our defending series champ is yet to make a lap as the champion. He's still sitting inside his truck and conversing with Trip Bruce, a familiar face and voice on the radio for Johnny Benson. Of course, Trip helped lead Johnny to that title a year ago. But here's a challenge for this team. Not only do you inherit the pressure of having the defending series champ in your truck and Johnny Benson, who will drive the 1, Red Horse Racing also going from 1 truck to 2. TJ Bell driving the 11 in the first 2 races of the year. They're planning to run that truck full time. A lot of curveballs being thrown at Red Horse Racing as we begin 2009, Ray.
And Adam, with a lot of jumping around over here as the guys are going to work on Ron Hornaday's number 33. brand new look for this team. I mean, you got some nice new sponsors on there. Congratulations.
I appreciate that, Longhorn. Really appreciate that coming aboard with BMW, everybody else. It's gonna be a lot of fun. The colors are awesome, but gotta keep it from hitting the track a little bit. Other than that, we're good.
Tell me about this racetrack, Ron, and we didn't have testing this year at all. Did that make any difference in the way you approach coming down here?
Oh, not really. It's the same truck we ran here last year, and Rick Renz, they all took it down to the straight line test with Chevrolet there and ran it around the 5-mile course, and then same truck. So I don't know. They changed the left side tires, and it's a little softer sidewall or something because we bottomed out more than we did last year. So truck was raised up, so we'll figure it out.
I'm sure they'll do that. Ron Hornaday with a new look on this number 33. And guys, when we look back at these last couple championships, it's hard to imagine that it could get much better than the last 2 seasons. And Hornaday's been right in the middle of both of them.
That's scary.
There's a TJ Bell, a new look for him. He's the 11 truck, one of Red Horse Racing's truck. TJ really finished strong last year. He had a run of 5 top 10s in a row late in the season. Really showed a lot of promise. So it's great to see him back as a teammate now to JB, Johnny Benson at Red Horse Racing.
Yeah, I love this. This is an opportunity for TJ, and he deserves that opportunity. Man, he was on it last year, and I'm glad he's in this Toyota truck. Obviously, needs a sponsor on the side of it, but it's funded, it's ready to race hard here at Daytona, and that's the guy. You want that guy behind your wheel, I think.
Well, and maybe our inspirational thoughts go towards TJ Bell to find that first win. It was always Matt Crafton that we were talking about. When's he going to find that first win? Now it could be TJ Bell, because he definitely has the quality of driving expertise to get in victory lane. NASCAR Camping World Truck Series practice continues from Daytona International Speedway. This first practice scheduled to go from 12 to 1:50, so almost 2 hours of track time for the Camping World Truck Series drivers. And again, we talked about the changes that have taken place from a year ago to this year. One of the biggest ones is no testing. So a lot of guys who don't have a lot of experience at super speedways are getting that experience right now.
But if you haven't raced this race before, there was no testing that would prepare you for what you're going to be faced with Friday night.
Right.
So don't feel sorry for those guys. That they were already going to be at a huge disadvantage because they don't know what all this draft means, and they can't understand what else is going to happen when you get out there. You wonder right now, Phil, why are they running around there 1 truck at a time or 2 trucks at a time? How does that prepare them for Friday night? I'll tell you, you heard Ron Hornaday say, we brought the same truck, same setup, and it's hitting the road. What's wrong? I think this track's gotten a little bit bumpier over the last year.
Kyle Busch as well.
Yeah.
He was bottoming out really badly.
I think there's just been some subtleties in the asphalt that have changed somewhat over the last year, and that's what these guys are trying to get used to right now.
And you talk about wanting to get that ground clearance just in thousandths of an inch. So if you have any changes at all, as we're going to ride along here with Todd Bodine and the Germain Racing Toyota, any changes at all, and that 10 thousandths clearance you had is no longer.
Right, and you want to cut it that close. That's your goal. You want that splitter to be right on the road, but don't hit it. And when you throw in a bunch of bumps, darn, that's hard to accomplish.
We talked about the view of the driver. This is actually on top of the race truck. So this isn't the actual view that a driver would have. He's probably going to see more of just that tailgate.
He sees that truck, though. Yeah. I'll guarantee. And, you know, we were talking earlier about what as drivers looking at. A lot of times you try to look through the back window of a truck as well as back out through his front windshield. But these spoilers are so tall here on the back of these trucks, that's a little bit difficult,
You can't see through. And when you're behind it, that'd be a nice view to have, Rick, as a driver, what all Todd Bodine could see there. But you just can't. You're down in your truck, and you're seeing the back tailgate of the truck ahead of you and a spoiler, and that's it.
Yeah, and we talk about how bumpy this racetrack is. We're touching on it. I mean, they're going upwards of 182, 185 miles an hour, and that thing is bouncing around.
Conversely, you go to Talladega, smooth as glass.
Yeah.
You don't see any of those trucks bouncing like that. But here, this is an entirely different racetrack. We always clump Daytona and Talladega in together.
Right.
You know, we talk about super speedways. They're nothing alike.
They aren't alike other than the fact that you can run wide open, so they have to have a restrictor plate. And when you throw a restrictor plate on these trucks or these cars, they're just all over one another, and that's what makes the action so intense. But you don't have to handle it Talladega. They just set the truck up, they get that splitter right down on the ground, pat you on the back, and say, have fun for a couple 100 miles. Here at Daytona, the driver goes out and runs a couple laps and says, man, it's all over the place. It's hitting the bumps. We got to work on it. What are we going to do? It'll throw a driver into a tailspin in a hurry because of all the rough places on this track.
Double yellow line on the inside of the track. You see that. Again, NASCAR made the official standing a year ago. There will be no advancing your positions no matter what below the double yellow line at Daytona.
That's a perfect example right there of those two trucks working together. There was a little bit of a gap. Colin Brown had just a little, about 2 or 3 truck lengths, and then these two trucks got together, Mike Skinner and Todd Bodine, and no matter what Colin Brown did, he was a sitting duck. They just drove right by him.
And listen to Todd Bodine. That engine just picks up all kinds of speed and runs right up on the back of Mike Skinner down into turn 3. So that shows you right there what a tremendous advantage you have when you're that second truck and there's somebody ahead of you.
You can see Mike Skinner. You can see the sparks, actually the sparks and coming out from underneath, dust coming out from underneath that truck. He's obviously hitting the racetrack as well. You don't mind hitting the racetrack a little bit with a side skirt or maybe the exhaust pipe, something like that. But you hit that splitter, and that's going to change directions in that truck.
And again, Phil, when they start this race on Friday night with a huge pack of trucks, the speeds are going to be faster. So if you're bumping a little bit on the ground right now, you're going to be bumping a little bit more, even more on Friday night. So they got to take all that into consideration. You see Todd Bodine there. He changed lanes real quick in that truck. He's a veteran. He did that on purpose. He said, I wonder if I'm right here in the middle of this corner, if I can drive over and get down in behind Skinner here in the middle of the turn. His truck responded. He's able to do it. That's just another way a driver's feeling out what he has to see if there's anything he needs to adjust or work on that truck to be ready for Friday night.
And once they figure out that information, then they send it to their crew chiefs, and we were just taking a look at Eric Phillips, their crew chief for Mike Skinner. Adam Alexander.
And you mentioned Eric Phillips, who will crew chief this number 5 truck for Mike Skinner in 2009. These two actually worked together for a couple of races in 2004, but that really their only experience together. And with no winter testing, and this is a deal that came together relatively late, these practices over the course of the next couple of days, as you see Eric Phillips left of your screen now, are going to be huge, not just to get the truck where it needs to be, but all these new driver-crew chief relationships where they need to be. And as we watch Eric Phillips and Mike Skinner, a former series champion, the defending series champ, has made his way back on track. Watch for that one truck in a moment, guys. Now let's send it over to Ray Dunlap.
Well, and Adam, I'd like to follow up on the same kind of situation over here. Driving for Kevin Harvick Incorporated this year in that Monster Energy Drink Chevrolet will be Ricky Carmichael, and he's got a brand new crew chief also, Billy Wilburn, who's been around the NASCAR garage in many different capacities over the last few years, came on at Kevin Harvick, and he will be calling the shots over here for Ricky Carmichael. And you guys talked about how great Ricky's been in the 2 wheels. It's almost unbelievable. But he told me yesterday he knows how much he has to learn about 4-wheel racing. He has competed in the Camping World East Series some, but boy, a whole new ball game for him and a whole new learning experience for Ricky Carmichael and Billy Wilburn to get their communication down. And it all has to start right here at Daytona.
You know, we talk about the speeds, Michael, and you talk about these drivers having no idea what to expect. Right now, the fastest lap time, as you can see on the crawl, Mike Skinner 183, a little bit over 183. We will see these trucks run as much as 10 miles an hour faster than that. When they get a lot of trucks out there in a big pack running along there, we will see speeds upwards of 190 miles an hour. Last year, the pole was about 176 and a half, and they will run over 15 miles an hour faster when they get in a big group and get that air turning around.
Now, how are you supposed to figure all that out? I mean, what do you do to prepare for that? We're going to gain 10 miles an hour, by the way. That's what you tell your rookie.
You watch practice on speed. That's how you figure it all out. We'll be back with more next. And again, welcome back to NASCAR Camping World Truck Series practice. It is the first one of the 2009 season and taking place right here at Daytona International Speedway. We've been racing here since 2000 with the Truck Series.
And you know, Rick, we've come up with some rule changes for this year, and I think these are great rule changes, Phil.
I really do. And a lot of this and all of this really is to try to cut some cost. Right. A byproduct of that, as you can see, that number one, the maximum of 12 crew members for each event is all that can sign in on these trucks, and only 5 over the wall at the same time. Now, you know, that's going to bring 72 less people on pit road at any one time.
You did a great job with the math. Yeah, quick too.
Very quickly.
He had that written down somewhere.
I did not. You see Larry Foyt waving.
What's he doing?
See what may have happened to Larry here. See him there.
He's hitting the ground so hard really, he doesn't understand what the heck's going on.
Really hard. You can see the left front tire rubbing really badly. The splitters rubbing really badly. Looks like he was going to try to go out there and possibly, you know, simulate a qualifying attempt, and he knew that that wasn't going to work out.
Then he wisely waved his hand. But the only problem with raising your hand that back window, we talked about it, you can't really see what's going on inside that cab. What you like to see a guy maybe do these days is get his arm out that left side window and wave you off, and, you know, hang your hand out to say we got some issues here.
Let's go back to the rules.
Close
we
call
were
for
talking
Larry,
about.
but let's get back to the rules.
You say only 12 people are allowed to sign in. That includes the driver, the spotter, and the crew chief are among those 12 people. Fuel or tires can be changed on pit stops, but not on the same pit stop. You can come in, change tires, go back out, and come in and put fuel in, or vice versa, but you cannot do both on the same pit stop. And number 3 is very, very important here. As of March 25th, the NASCAR officials will put a seal on the engine. And after that, you cannot run an engine that's not sealed in more than 3 consecutive races. And what that is trying to get engine builders to use these engines more than one time. Traditionally, a lot of these engine builders will run a 200-mile race or whatever, go back and completely rebuild an engine to a cost of probably close to $20,000. And NASCAR is trying to help the engine builders know that they need to make these engines where they're going to last longer. They need to be a 600-mile engine, not a 250-mile engine, and they're going to try to prevent people from using a fresh engine each and every week.
Right. Putting it simply, they cannot have 4 fresh engines in a row.
Exactly.
One will have to be used over again.
Exactly. And Daytona and Talladega are really excluded from that because that takes a little bit different package for these racetracks than it does the other racetracks.
Ray Dunlap.
Well, Rick, and I want to add to that a little bit. One of the things that NASCAR is trying to do is reduce the number of people that you have to bring to the racetrack. And by having only 5 guys go over the wall, that should help these teams save a good bit of money. But in addition to that, you can only have 12 crew members that are listed as active guys that are able to work on the vehicle back here in the garage. I want to show you a quick example. This is Curtis Thompson, and he's a tire changer for Germain Racing. You'll notice he has a nice little hard card here. It shows you that he's on the 13 car crew, whatever. But when we flip this over, you'll notice they have now put on a sticker here with a barcode, and this is event number 1. Now Curtis will be listed as team number 30 as an active crew member, and NASCAR could come by and scan that at any time, whether it's in the garage or in the pit area, and that way they're going to know whether Curtis's name is on the list or not. And if he's not, then you're going to get in big trouble. So you only have 12 guys that you can list that can work on the truck or go over the wall. Adam?
And as much as things change, they stay the same. Mike Skinner with a new team, working with a new crew chief, but it's the same old number, 5 for you, and you're at the top of the board. That's similar to what we've seen in recent years. So your thoughts on how things are going, Mike?
Man, I just can't thank these guys enough. We put this thing together literally a couple weeks ago, and Eric Phillips and David Dollar and this whole entire Randy Moss team, they have worked day and night. I don't think they've had much sleep at all in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but when I come over here yesterday and took a look at this little Exide Tundra, I was like, wow, that thing's nice. Can't believe they did such a great job in such a short time. So if this is anything to see what we're going to be riding in the rest of the year, I'm pretty excited about it. It's pretty good.
You know what it's like to win championships in the Truck Series, but since this deal came together so late, does that change your expectations for 2009?
Absolutely not. I mean, you know, we're going to do the best we can. These guys they're hungry, man. They're foaming at the mouth. They have ran through 10 or 12 drivers in the last year or two, and they've had some really good drivers in there. Had a couple rookies like Jimmy Johnson in there. No, Jimmy did a good job. He's my buddy. But, you know, I think for them to get to just work with the same driver all year, they're going to figure out what I like, what I don't like. I'm going to figure out what they like and what they don't like. And I've already scratched up their pretty little truck, but that's okay. We got the corner sharpened up on it.
Mike will be in the truck race on Friday. The question is, will he be racing Sunday? He's one of a number of drivers that will be a part of the Gatorade Duel at Daytona tomorrow, and he wants to race in the Great American Race on Sunday.
And Kyle Busch scheduled to start this race on Friday night, Friday the 13th. We'll be back with more practice. Every Tuesday night on Speed, hang out with Vita Guerrera for all new episodes of Living the Low Life. Vita checks out what's under the hood and inside the world of lowriders. Living the Low Life with host Vita Guerrera, Tuesday nights at 8 Eastern, exclusively on Speed. Caution has come out on the racetrack. There was actually only one truck, I believe, on the racetrack when this happened, and so they've slowed the pace down, obviously. That's the 32. Chase Austin just coming off of the racetrack.
He had some splitter issues, so his team will be working on that truck. It was dragging the ground pretty hard, and he'll go back to the garage area. They'll jack that truck up, survey what that splitter looks like. There's a couple things you got to think about, Phil. When that splitter hits, obviously that's losing speed. You know, you're grinding speed off on the track, but also if it hits enough, you can grind through that thing. If it, that could cause you a problem as the race wears on.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to get that splitter up off the racetrack.
Crews continue to work, fine-tune these machines, getting them ready for Friday night's race. We'll be back with more practice right after this. Coverage of NASCAR Camping World Truck Series practice from Daytona is brought to you by Toyota. For the latest Toyota racing information, visit toyotaracing.com. Toyota, moving forward. By Verizon Wireless. Call more people, use 0 minutes. Only on America's largest mobile calling family. Verizon Wireless. And by Old Spice, the official deodorant of NASCAR. Trucks are back out on the racetrack. It has been cleared and checked to make sure there is no debris out there, and we're starting to see a few more trucks working a little bit more together.
Yeah, get a little makings of a little 5-truck draft right here. Those trucks will close up once they get up to speed. Colin Brown, that Conway Ford, leading that pack. That's Mike Bliss driving that 40 truck right there for Curtis Key Motorsports. Actually, Colin Brown is going to make his way back towards pit road, it looks like.
Didn't take him long to figure out that whatever they did didn't work.
Exactly.
He got her up to speed, and he pulled her right back in the garage.
Yeah, and these trucks can get up to speed a lot faster than the cars because they have so much more horsepower. These trucks probably have upwards of 600 horsepower here, so we're used to seeing Sprint Cup cars and the Nationwide cars take that first lap of qualifying right way up against the wall. These trucks will pretty much be up to speed their first time by to take the green, so you don't see the big pickup on lap number 2.
As far as driving into the corner, our water gauge is not working still. It's hitting a little bit, but God, those trucks in front of us, at night they're not going to have anything left.
He's saying that's exactly why Colin Brown did what he did. He felt it hitting. There's no sense in running more laps. Let's just come right back in and work on it. Bliss saw all the dust and the sparks flying off the trucks ahead of him, and he said that's why they came right back in.
Mike Bliss, the 2002 Camping World Truck Series champion. So one of the previous champions that will be entered in the race on Friday night.
And I think one of the guys that probably will contend for that nationwide championship this year, driving the Miccosukee Chevrolet for James Finch. That team was really strong. Mike did not start out the season with them last year, but once he joined that team, they were very, very strong and had a good season. I think finished in the top 5 in points, so look for him to be a contender in that series.
Rick Crawford now on the racetrack, bringing his Ford F-150 back out.
He had a heck of a win here, didn't he?
Wow, that was terrific. Actually, the very first Truck Series race on speed in 2003, and what a way to begin a great relationship.
And it's not changed since then. 03, 04, 05. I mean, every year we say, can they do it again? And they keep doing it again. Come across this start-finish line 3 wide at Daytona for the win. Who would have ever thought it?
I keep saying if they don't have a 3-wide finish, I'll be disappointed because we're used to it.
And that's unfair. I mean, because that's not normal. That's not usually what happens.
Yeah, they've raised the bar. I mean, they have gotten to the point now where we expect unbelievable finishes, and it's hard to continue doing that, but they do it.
And I think that's why I'm serious, Rick. I think that's why you see these cup cars racing like they do now. I think NASCAR saw what kind of aero drag these things had. I don't know how much power they had under the hood. They saw the results racing side by side every lap, exciting, exhilarating racing for the fans. And now that those cup cars are a lot like that, and we're able to make the same type of moves.
And the nice thing about that, one of the byproducts is you've got a safer piece too. There's more room in the driver compartment, especially for somebody like you that's so tall. The roof is higher, the greenhouse, the roof is wider, and there's so many things that are built into that new car that make them so much safer.
Yeah, I was talking a few years ago to Mark Martin. I said, these cars are getting too little. He said, really? I haven't noticed. I said, no kidding. I said, you ought to sit up there where I do. You I need some more room, man.
Well, we were talking about that first ever race here on speed. It was right here at Daytona International Speedway, and Rick Crawford was the benefactor of a 3-wide finish. Let's look back.
Keep your eyes on this.
Presley dodging to the high side. Crawford goes down low. He tries to make the pass. As they're coming to the line, it's Rick Crawford making the pass, and Crawford wins the Daytona 250.
That's what I'm talking about.
you're a short track racer from Alabama and you come to Daytona and put a win in the books, that's a major accomplishment. I love the commercial. You remember the commercial that Craftsman did where Rick Crawford was sitting down on the front on the start-finish line? He said, I crossed the finish line right here and I won the race. Robert Presley was right over there, about a foot behind me. He finished third.
Exactly.
That told the whole story.
And Robert was leading the race coming off of 4.
He thought he had it won, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gunbroker.com on the side of that 23. Jason White, 29-year-old.
Great to see Gunbroker continue in the series. They were in here last year and ran a full schedule with Jason White, and they were part of Greenlight Racing, SNS Greenlight Racing, and now they've essentially started their own operation.
Right, they got 3 trucks down there, 21, 22, and 23. Good-looking trucks.
Another new combination this year. Stacy Compton comes aboard the Weiler.com Toyota. You know, it was really looking like that Weiler team may not even race this year, and they're here at the 11th hour. Stacy came aboard, and here they are. You see Melling on the side, a longtime supporter of all of NASCAR racing, Mark Melling, and all his outfit up in Jackson, Michigan. It's terrific to see them on board this truck with Stacy Compton.
Again, this is the first practice. We have another practice later on this afternoon. Everybody getting ready for qualifying, which will take place on Thursday. Ray Dunlap, I believe you've caught up with the driver. Has you learned anything?
Well, and Rick, I wanted to add a little bit at the top of the show. You guys were talking about no testing over the winter. Well, the last 3 seasons when we've come to Daytona, there's been one truck at the top of the board every time, and that's always Roush Fenway's number 6 when we do have testing, but there wasn't any testing this year. So let's find out from Colin Brown, how good's your race truck out there so far?
Well, so far I think it's pretty good. You know, these guys have been working really hard on this truck, and it's the same truck we had at Talladega. Everybody saw how fast that number 6 Conway Freight truck was. So, you know, I believe Mike Beam and all his guys have made this Ford a little bit better than than what they had at Talladega. And certainly for here, it requires a little bit different truck, and we're just trying to make it drive well here.
And right now they're making a little shock adjustment on the front of this number 6 truck, getting ready to send him back out and see what he thinks about that. And of course, Colin Brown got a little bit of experience down here at Daytona in altogether different form of racing in the Rolex 24.
You know, one of the things I think is amazing, and Ray touched on it a little bit, when I'm always telling people about what I do and where I work, they always think, oh, it's a bunch of mechanics out there working on cars, making them go faster. Well, you just talked about shocks. You've got engineers that are on all these teams that are sitting at a computer saying, okay, we need to have less rebound or more rebound, or the spring has to be heavier. I mean, it is very, very technical in this day and age of racing.
There's no doubt the world has changed, and it all changed, I think, maybe as recently as 5 or 6 years ago when we saw the cars being set up and tested at the shop, pulled down on rigs that could dictate travel and see how your car would handle when it actually went on the track. That all changed just a few years ago, Rick.
Driver owner Kevin Harvick making his way from one garage to the next. Again, he's won the Daytona 500 and now would like to have his truck in the winner's circle of the truck races. Next Thursday, Bull Run is coming, and the only place to see it is on Speed. Join Bill Goldberg as he takes 12 teams on a high-stakes road trip. Now, these teams, they might make it from point A to point B, but they'll need to make it through his challenges to collect $200 grand in cash and prizes. Bull Run with Bill Goldberg premieres next Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Speed. That's going to be a fun race.
Yeah, and that bull right there is going to be running Friday night, and that's going to be a fun race because you know Ron Hornaday is going to be on it, and that bull is on his truck.
You think he'll be a bull here at Daytona?
He normally is.
He was when we left Miami, and I don't think anything's probably changed over the last couple of months.
What a great point battle we had last year. Sorry to interrupt, Rick, but man, oh man, we never knew till the last corner of the last lap at Homestead who was going to win that championship.
Well, and if you had watched practice in the first half of the race, you'd have said, oh, Ron's going to be our champion.
Yeah.
Good job. But that team, Johnny Benson's team, Trent Bruce and those guys, they stepped up and they wheeled their way to that championship. It was an awesome battle. Hornaday had the fastest truck. Look at these numbers these guys put up between the two of them, though, Rick.
Yeah, you put them side by side and you look at this and you think, wow, what amazing seasons each one had. And it came down to that very last lap, the very last 100 yards, more or less. I mean, they finished right one in front of the other, and that's the way we determined our champion.
You can see that 1,326 laps led.
Yeah, that was
wow.
Yeah.
over 800 more than Johnny, but Johnny, you know, had a little bit more consistency. You can see everything else was about the same, and gosh, what a terrific. And you go back to the year before that, and it was Ron Hornaday and Mike Skinner coming down to the very last race, and Mike Skinner having some problems in that race, but that still didn't give the championship to Hornaday. If he would have had trouble on the last lap, Skinner would have won that championship. It's amazing, this series.
That the laps led almost describe those two's personality. Ron Hornaday, 1,300 and something. I'm going to go lead every lap and win this darn race. Johnny Benson takes a little bit different approach to it. He led over 500 laps, oh, by the way, and won the championship. So it can be done a couple of different ways, and I thought we saw two guys with almost opposite agendas racing right down to the checker flag at Homestead to see who was going to be our champion.
And remember, Ron won one more race than Johnny, and Johnny lost to Michigan by 1 3/8 to Eric Garnett.
That's right.
So they were within 1 3/8 of having that stat the same.
Taking a look at the 13 and 15 truck running together here. Johnny Sauter in that 13. Shane Sieg in the 15 behind him.
Got a pretty good little group here, Rick. I got 5 trucks that have globbed together here. See what we can figure out. These guys have had a chance to come to the garage, get their splitters adjusted up, see if they can make a couple laps. The last time we saw a 5-truck pack leave the pits, they made it about 1 lap. And they all quit.
Two of them came down off the racetrack on the backstretch to come to pit road.
Again, right now it's that 13 of Johnny Sauter that's out in front of the field. Is he feeling comfortable in that truck, Adam?
He is feeling comfortable, and he's one of the great new faces in the Camping World Truck Series in 2009. And of course, he joins Matt Crafton at Thor Sport Racing. Crafton a year ago got his first career win, finished top 5 in the points. And you may notice the sponsor, Fun Sand, for Johnny Sauter. Check this out, and this is really cool. It doesn't stain, so mama's happy. It's colorful, so the kids love it. And look, it just runs right out of your hands. Doesn't stick to your hands, no mess, no nothing.
Cade
All kinds
and
of
Kylo
colors.
are going to like that, right?
Yeah, they are going to like it, Rick.
And you stay out of that, Adam.
Don't tell anybody, all right?
We're going to lose Adam for the rest of this practice session.
Well, we'll try to get him for the second practice. He'll be playing in the sand.
You saw Johnny Sauter was leading that pack when we first started talking about him, and now he's falling all the way to the back of it.
Now, a lot of time you drivers do that just to see how your truck reacts differently in different positions, right?
He got past, though. He was right along there against the yellow line, in the line that a lot of these truck drivers will employ on Friday night. And those guys just drove around him. That's because of such a big hole, as we talk about these trucks punching in the air, and you are really, really vulnerable if you're out front.
Now they're dicing around.
Thinking about 3 wide there for a second. Johnny said I was in front at one point. I think I'll go back there. I liked it up there.
And that's what a driver's trying to do right here, right? You see Colin Brown right now basically running 5th in this pack. If he can make his way to the front of that pack, if his truck sucks up good, it drives well, he can make his way to the front of that pack, then he's considered this little session right here a success.
Definitely, and I think these guys already might consider it partially a success because they've been able to run a few laps in a row here. That means they're not beating on the ground too bad to disturb them enough to where they thought they ought to
hit here a little bit, just past the center over the bumps.
Yeah, Colin Brown was one of those trucks that we saw earlier come out in a 5-truck pack and then right away came down onto pit road and back into the garage. Ray, what'd they do?
Well, they made that shock adjustment. They went up 2 clicks on the right front, and I'm not sure exactly what they did on the left front, but whatever it was, Colin doesn't like it. He said it was much freer that time coming off of the corner. So he's talked with Mike Beam already and said, get ready to make the next change. We'll go 2 more laps here, and then we're going to try to do something to tighten this thing up because it was way too loose for him.
It looks like the attitude of that truck's been thrown off a little bit too, Phil. You see Crafton's truck right down on the ground. Look, you can see all the way up underneath the Ford of Colin Brown in the back of the pack there.
That's a huge difference. You see the 13 of Johnny Sauter, who is a teammate of Matt Crafton. Those trucks look very, very similar, but Colin Brown's truck looked to be at least 2 to 3 inches higher in the front end from that splitter off the racetrack than those other trucks.
There's 2 ways to go about this, just like everything we've talked about so far. There's more than one way to skin a cat. You can get your truck down low, and you can ride on the track as low as you can with that splitter. And it's more of a setup that is aero dependent. Or you can put some spring in the front of the truck and be more compliant. The truck will move around more, it'll travel more, it'll be higher on the straightaway. That's another way you can go about winning this race. We've seen it done both ways. There's really not a right or a wrong, I don't think.
5 trucks lining up nose to tail now as they're working The draft here at Daytona International Speedway. Our first practice of the year halfway over. We'll be back with more out of this. When the trucks are on the track, they are on speed as well. And you can see every minute, every lap of the action that takes place. Today, our second practice at 5 o'clock. Then tomorrow, final practice 11 a.m. followed by qualifying, where they will line up for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series 250 that will run at 8 o'clock. But you'll need to be set up by Chris Devoda at 7:30, so don't miss any of the action.
There's Matt Crafton, the 88 Menard Chevrolet. You know, Mikey, you were talking about just a few moments ago that you could have these trucks right on the racetrack, or you could have them up high. And you can, and either way, you can win this race. If we'll stop that right there, look at the difference in these two trucks. You see right there, you see how close that truck is to the racetrack? Then look at this truck right here, that 6 truck. Now, either one of these trucks is capable of winning the race, but if it's me, I want my truck to look like that 88.
The 88 looks faster, doesn't he?
It really does.
But believe me, Phil, they engineered that truck out to look like that, as they did the 6 to look like that. That's just 2 different ways to set your truck up. Now, the 6 does have the ability to come in, change his truck around, because they've scienced all that out back at the shop. They know how to get it right down on the road too.
And remember, Ray said they just made a shock adjustment, so they could have, that shock adjustment may not have helped. They may come right back out on the racetrack and that truck be a little bit lower, looks more like that 88 car or 88 truck possibly.
You guys are all about looks. That's why you spend so much time in the makeup before these shows, right?
Have you seen our hair? We got great hair.
Ray Dunlap, how are you looking down there?
Well, I'm having a bad hair day because it's kind of windy, and he's having a real bad hair day because he doesn't have any. But talking to Todd Bodine, the guy who's won the last 3 super speedway races in this series. But Todd, I'm looking at this truck, and it's got a number 30, but no other stickers. What's up with that?
Yeah, we don't have a sponsor. You know,
how can that be?
Well, sign of the times, I guess. I don't know. You know, we've done everything we need to do to get sponsorship. We got people looking. We're talking to a few companies, a few corporations. But you know, the way the economy is, it's hard for a corporation to jump into something, and we need somebody that's going to jump, get right involved, and you know, they got to look at a program, analyze it, see how it can help their company, and you know, right now it's just tough to get a company to do that.
Mikey and Phil were looking at some different trucks out on the track. Some guys dragging the splitter all the way down trying to go for aero. Other guys going with the suspension up a little bit. How are you approaching this race? Do you need drivability or do you need downforce?
After watching that race the other night, you need drivability. And after getting out there and practicing, you know, I don't know if it's because it's so windy or, you know, I know Goodyear changed the left side tire, but the trucks aren't as stable as they were last year. You know, last year it took pretty much the whole run to start getting them where they were sliding around and you really had to wheel on the steering wheel. We've got 15 laps on this set of tires, and I was driving my butt off there with 3 of us drafting, so it's pretty much all over the track. You got to go for drivability.
Well, we'll be watching in these next couple practices. We wish you good luck in the race, and we certainly hope that something comes together so they can get some stickers on this 30. They hate to see this truck in victory lane all blank.
Well, they'd love to see it in victory lane.
Yeah, I was going to say, even if it didn't have any stickers on it, I think victory lane would be pretty nice. Rick Crawford back out on the racetrack, 13th quickest of the trucks that have been on there, but we can really almost throw the numbers out because some guys have run in big packs, some guys haven't run in packs, so that will make your times fluctuate depending upon where you're running and who you're running with.
Absolutely. We can see speeds, you know, upwards of 10 miles an hour faster when you're out there in a pack. And we haven't seen a big pack yet. About 5 trucks is the most trucks that we've seen at any one time. You know, we start this race Friday night, and we may never see a huge pack in practice, either this practice or the next practice, even our final practice. But you start that race with 36 trucks in a draft, and you're going to see some business pick up now. And that's one guy right there that's going to be out there. There's J.R. Fitzpatrick from Canada, the youngest Canadian Series champion ever. And we'll be back with more practice from Daytona.
NASCAR race day built by the Home Depot. Special edition tomorrow at 1 o'clock to get you ready for the Gatorade Duel. We've got a special feature on there about the history of the Gatorade Duel. And Wendy and Hermia will be working pit road to get you caught up with all the drivers getting ready to find out how the starting lineup will be set for the Daytona 500.
About lost you there, Rick.
You still might lose me, as a matter of fact. That last drink didn't go down the right pipe for some reason.
Remember, Sunday, 11 o'clock, race day. Going to be a huge show there.
Get you set for all of the racing that takes place here at Daytona International Speedway. David Starr back out on the racetrack again. New number for him, number 24.
It's a Zachary truck.
Remember, they came on late last year and sponsored David in a few races, and then David took them over to HD Motorsports. Again, we talked earlier, going to be a teammate with the 25 of Terry Cook and the Cajun Industries Toyota. So Jim Harris has
got him a couple of sponsors.
Got him a couple of sponsors for here, which is terrific.
And some drivers that obviously can get to victory lane as well. And that's good to see Jim put together.
A little bit of a toe right there from that other truck, but that was about a half second quicker than you run.
He's definitely getting the toe.
We're getting a lot of help, but we needed to go ahead and just run it.
It's amazing.
Let's go ahead and get us the tire sheet here before we get in the pack, so I can look at the campers, okay?
He's talking about the cameras. That means how the front tires are actually tilted in. You want to make sure that you get a fairly even temperatures across the tire, and that's what they're going to be looking at right there before they get out in the pack. And
I like that plan. Let's take a look at our stuff, and then we'll send you out there in the middle of them. Well, as middle of 4 or 5 as you can get.
Yeah, right.
And try to do some drafting with that truck now.
Adam Alexander.
Remember back a few weeks ago here at Daytona, the Rolex 24, the Racers Group, TRG Motorsports, in the GT class finished 1-2, and it's been a busy time because J.R. Fitzpatrick getting set now to run the truck for these guys. And how's it been so far? Because you are top 5 on the board.
Yeah, I mean, we only ran 5 laps. I mean, the Mammoth Silverado has been fantastic. We have a little bit of problem with scraping the bottom of the truck, but the crew's working their butts off here to get it fixed up, and I'm really excited because this truck's really going good for us.
Now, Phil talked about all your experience in Canada and success, but that was all short track. Here's your NASCAR experience. Martinsville, Phoenix, Homestead, and now Daytona. What's it like?
It was definitely, a long learning curve. It's still going to be a learning year for me, but Daytona, man, I'm just so pumped up. I can't even put in the words how excited I am, but it makes it more fun when you're up, near the front.
And this team really close to finalizing a deal that would allow them to run the entire 2009 season, and that has JR excited because he wants to win Rookie of the Year, Ray.
And Adam, it'll be very interesting to see what Kyle Busch thinks about his Miccosukee Toyota. He is back onto the racetrack, but they have spent most of the afternoon here in the garage rebuilding the entire front end on this truck, cutting off cross-member brackets and all kinds of stuff. They've had a welder down here, just about everybody on that crew underneath the truck, trying to get that thing so it has a little more clearance. Kyle likes the thing down on the racetrack as much as possible, but he didn't like it at all in his first couple of laps on the racetrack.
Those guys are getting with it pretty good.
There's a huge change went on at Billy Blue Motorsports. Richie Waters, that we talk about all the time, and Kyle working so well together. Richie and Doug George actually switched places, and Doug George now will be the crew chief for Kyle in the 51 truck, and Richie will be over on the 15 truck with Shane Sieg. So there's Doug George on the left right there, J.R. Norris on the right, a great race car driver in his own right, who's also the truck chief on this truck right here.
Will you guys still question what Richie Waters, as far as decisions are?
Oh, no matter what, we will. We're typically wrong, but we will question it.
We got to keep him honest.
Exactly.
This is a pretty good little battle we got going on. Skinner was up high, shot down low, got around Kyle Busch. Kyle tried to block him. Wasn't able to do so. So this is what these guys want. They want some trucks to run around. They want to see what these things feel like when they're passing and making moves, and that's exactly what they're doing.
You see Kyle Busch's stats from a year ago. 8 wins in the Cup Series. That tied Jimmy Johnson for number of wins. Carl Edwards had 9 last year, is the most, but 3 wins in the Truck Series, 10 in the Nationwide Series. Unprecedented. No one had ever won 21 races in a season from the Premier Division since the Truck Series started.
What was 13 or something was the previous record that Kevin Harvick had set? That he just blistered that record. But the 10 Nationwide wins tied Sam Ard for the most wins in a season in the Nationwide Series. And when he did that, then Kyle Busch donated $100,000 to Sam Ard, who's going through some serious medical issues right now. So what a great philanthropic move by Kyle Busch.
Speaking of great NASCAR nationwide drivers. Jack Ingram was down wandering around pit road the other day. We were talking a little bit. He's really looking forward to getting to Bristol. They're going to have a Legends race at Bristol, I think, coming up this summer. And Phil, you going to be a part of that?
I am going to be a part of it.
Well, the road to victory lane, the Ironman says goes right through him. So
I'll guarantee you.
Just be ready.
Our race ticket's enough to know that.
Well, maybe when Phil wins that race, he'll be philanthropic and
give away 100 grand. Does it pay that?
I don't think so.
Ron Hornaday's truck getting worked on. Brian Scott as well. They're going to get back out for practice. Speed presentation of NASCAR Camping World Truck Series practice from Daytona is brought to you by Toyota. For the latest Toyota racing information, visit toyotaracing.com. Toyota, moving forward. And by Old Spice, the official deodorant of NASCAR. We did a little work, checked it out, and
good news for Adam.
Seattle to Daytona is 3,014 miles, and walking or backpacking would take 41 days and 2 hours.
That's right. I call that right around the corner, Adam.
Adam, that's nearby, right? Nearby?
I meant he's from the Seattle area, not nearby like Seattle's near here. And you bunch of smart alecks, you can't even wait till the second race to harass me. You know it?
What about second practice?
I mean,
it's the first practice.
I'm humiliated. But thanks. It's good to be back. You know?
Welcome back, Adam.
Yeah.
We're humbled just to be able to work
I'm not
with
a rookie anymore, all right?
Oh, boy. We do have fun, and we're seeing a few guys out here working together now. 6 trucks in this pack.
I think this is the first time we've seen Ricky Carmichael in a pack. Of course, he's raced the ARCA car. He knows what it's like to be in there, but it's just a different animal in a truck. So he's sucked onto the back of Johnny Sauter, watching these trucks make some moves. See if he can learn something here.
Now, one of the interesting historic tidbits I think we can bring up, Johnny Benson is in the 1 truck. Ted Musgrave was the first one to ever win a championship, I believe, with the number 1 on the side of either race car or truck, anything in NASCAR.
And he won that with Ultra Motorsports and the Mopar Dodge back a few years ago.
Hornaday sticks his nose on the outside of the 24 truck.
Catching Timothy Peters in that 17 truck. Timothy stays down next to the double yellow line.
David Starr sees Hornaday go by, and Johnny Sauter drive up on the outside of him.
Right along with Johnny.
See Starr changing lanes. He decided he'd get up in the high lane and go around Timothy.
So just for the few moments that David Starr was side by side with Timothy, the side draft was enough to slow him down just a little bit and lose those 4, 5, 6, even 8 truck lengths. But if those guys line up again, you see Ricky Carmichael, the 4 right behind David Starr. It'll be just a matter of probably within a lap they will catch back onto the tail end of that 3 truck draft up there.
And then when the 24 gets there, he'll have to make a decision. Do I want to just ride the line, or do I see what my truck will do? He'll have enough steam. He'll have enough momentum when he gets there. He can make a move if he wants.
Absolutely.
What's he decide to do?
Things are heating up here in this first practice as we're seeing 7, 8 trucks working together in the final inside of 10 minutes of practice. Adam.
And you talk about Ricky Carmichael, and we all know his success. We talked at the top of this practice about how good he's been on a motorcycle, but not just throughout the United States and in that series. He's been very good on 2 wheels right here at Daytona. 5 times he won an AMA Supercross here at the Daytona International Speedway. And when you talk about Supercross, it too is big at Daytona. They have Bike Week here every spring. Ricky Carmichael dominated that, and he hopes that in some way that momentum can carry over, and he's gathering the experience he needs on track right now, Ray.
You know, Adam, when we start talking about Johnny Benson, of course, he's another of those drivers with a new number out there. We'll be watching that number 1 for sure. And he brought Trip Bruce, his crew chief, with him to Red Horse Racing and a couple of other crew members. But what they weren't able to do is bring nearly as many trucks as they had hoped to. They were hoping to be able to buy some of the equipment from Bill Davis Racing that Johnny was used to running. They actually only have 2 physical trucks that Johnny drove last year in his championship season that will be at Red Horse Racing. The other is a couple of older Toyotas. The other is a couple of brand new chassis that they'll be continuing to work on. But only 2 of the trucks that Johnny had last year in his championship run will he get to utilize in 2009.
And you know, the fortunate thing about the Camping World Truck Series schedule is that we run here this week, we run California next week, and then we've got a week off on Atlanta, and then we're really sporadic as far as the amount of races we run, probably before we get really busy in late May. So these guys can afford to have a few trucks right now because they're going to have a lot of time to replenish that inventory as we get on towards March and April.
And these guys that have won the championship, Phil, they realize all that. They understand they've got a chance to go out and run a few races, understand where their program is, and then they got some time to change directions if they need to and go and build some different types of trucks. And, you know, the rules are such where these guys can twist these bodies around and make them have either less drag, more downforce on the back or front. They can make those decisions and make those changes.
Riding along with Todd Bodine. I know, Mikey, you've got to scoot away and get back into one of those race cars down there.
Yeah, I'm going to go down there and make sure all the stuff I've been saying up here
is accurate.
Like, it is indeed bumpy, and you can make all these crazy runs.
Well, let us know next practice if it worked.
I'll be back around 5. What are you up to?
Sounds good. We'll be here.
Yeah, we'll hang out with you. We'll science it out.
All right.
Well, continuing on speed, we've got quite a few things taking place the rest of the day on speed. Again, 2 o'clock just following us will be Sprint Cup practice, of which Michael Waltrip will be behind the wheel in that one. At 5 o'clock, he'll join us back here for the Camping World second practice of the 2009 season. Then NASCAR Live at 6. 8 o'clock, it's the Speed Report. And 9 o'clock, NASCAR 2009 New Beginning. You want to make sure to stay right here with us on Speed. About 3 minutes remaining in this first practice of the 2009 season for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. A new sponsor, new looks. We got new shirts. I mean, that's got to be something too, doesn't it?
New everything, absolutely. and you know, the thing is, we've got this one practice right here, and this is really not a whole lot unlike our first test session in years past in January. So these guys are really playing catch up here, and you know, so far the usual cast of characters up here towards front. Mike Skinner, Todd Bodine, right now 1 and 2 in practice. But again, this is one place that you could probably throw the practice speeds out the window. It's all about getting that truck to drive well. That's the key here. Yeah, it's great to have some speed, and we're going to have some speed because we're only going to start 36 trucks. We've got more than that here, so those guys are worried about, the Gorgo homers are worried about having the speed. But as far as these other guys that know they're in the race, they've got to get these trucks to drive well.
Adam Alexander, what'd you see in the garage?
Well, I'll tell you what I see on the board, and that is a very familiar name, as you guys said at the top, Mike Skinner. He has won practice number 1. What does it mean? Well, nothing really. Still plenty of time for these guys to work on their race vehicles. And the next one comes up at 5 o'clock this afternoon. 2 more hours tomorrow, and it all leads up to the drama of the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, taking the green flag in Friday night season opener here at Daytona. Ray?
And Adam, when we come to Daytona, you get a much bigger rear spoiler on these trucks, and it creates a lot of pressure on the back end, a lot of downforce. And it's all about a balancing act. Yeah, you want that front end down so the air goes over top, but you want to have a nice balance when you get in that big drafting pack. But today on the racetrack, we had wind and we had full sunshine. But later today in our 5 o'clock session, I think you're going to get a much better feel for what this racetrack will be like when we go racing here at Friday night. The sun sets in Daytona tonight at 6:11, so I think we're going to start to get better conditions in that second practice. It'll be much more like the race time Friday night.
Well, and we expect that. We expect to see some big packs. We've seen that before with the truck series. They will go out there and run in maybe 10, 12, 15 trucks in a group, and we'll see some faster speeds.
Absolutely. We'll see speeds upwards of 190 miles an hour. We will see that all night Friday night in the race when those trucks get that big pack. We're going to see some fast speeds. As you can see right here, J.R. Fitzpatrick's best lap's about 182. Well, that's going to really escalate. But not qualifying, it's going to be less than that because of the restrictions in these trucks, as big of the holes they punch in the air. So it's really an interesting transition from qualifying to race for these trucks.
We've seen about an hour and a half, and they're getting ready to end practice now. Just over an hour and a half, 50 minutes of practice. Has anyone jumped out, or are you keeping your eye on anyone in particular right now as the season kicks off?
Well, I think we have to keep an eye on Todd Bodine. He's won the last 3 of these super speedway races, both the last 2 at Talladega and the one here in Daytona in 2008. So we have to keep an eye on him But hey, this race is anybody's guess here. We've seen Rick Crawford win this race. We've seen people leading coming off turn 4. We saw Travis Quapple leading with maybe less than 200 feet to go before the start finish line, and he ends up losing the race. So there is really no givens when you come here to Daytona.
I tried to give Travis Quapple that race. I was calling him to the start finish line as the eventual winner, and it just did not happen. The rest of the day here on Speed, again, immediately following us will be the Sprint Cup practice at 2 o'clock, then Camping World practice. We're right back here in the booth at 5 o'clock. NASCAR live at 6 p.m. Then 8 o'clock is the Speed Report, followed by NASCAR 2009 New Beginnings. And that's guys like Mark Martin, a new beginning when he moves over into Hendrick.
You know, the nice thing about this first practice session is we had no problems. We had a few trucks dragging the racetrack. We had a cowl flap fly off of Kyle Busch's truck, but basically no incidents on track. So that's really great news for all these guys in the Camping World Truck Series. We saw a couple guys get close to the wall. Mike Skinner got right next to the wall, maybe even scrubbed it a touch. But basically these guys can get ready for the next practice session.
There was another guy. We saw TJ Bell just taking his helmet off. We see Terry Cook debriefing. Joey, the engine builder there, taking in all that information. Again, Sprint Cup practice coming up next on Speed, and they're about to roll out on the track. Thanks for joining us here for the first Truck Series practice. We'll be back at 5.